The message came at midnight, Earth time. Admiral Park Jun was sitting in his office on the orbital station above Earth when the emergency signal lit up every screen in the room. He set down his coffee and leaned forward. In his 30 years of military service, he had seen many distress calls. But this one was different. This one came from across the galaxy. The Velith were dying. June had met the Velith once, at a diplomatic meeting 2 years ago. They were tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow softly in the light. They had large, dark eyes that showed every emotion they felt. They were a peaceful species. They had no army, no weapons. They had never needed them. For 10,000 years, they had lived in harmony, building beautiful cities and creating art that made other species weep. Now, their cities were burning. June pressed a button on his desk. Get me Dr. Kim Hana and Captain Lee Tae. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Dr. Kim Hana arrived first. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She had spent her life studying alien species, learning their languages and their ways. She had friends among the Velith. When she saw the distress signal, her face went pale. How bad is it? She asked. Bad, June said. The Grath Empire attacked them 3 weeks ago. They have already taken half the planet. Hannah closed her eyes. She knew what the Krath did to the species they conquered. They did not just kill. They enslaved. They harvested. They erased entire civilizations and left nothing behind but ashes and bones. Captain Lee Tae entered the room next. He was young for a fleet commander, only 32 years old. But he had proven himself in the border conflicts near Mars and in the pirate wars of the outer colonies. He was brave, loyal, and he never left a soldier behind. What do we know? Tae asked. June pulled up a holographic map. It showed the Velith homeworld, a beautiful blue and green planet covered in forests and oceans. Red markers showed where the Krath forces had landed. There were hundreds of them. The Krath sent a full invasion fleet, June said. 50 capital ships, 300 support vessels, ground forces in the millions. The Velith have nothing to fight back with. They are hiding underground, but the Krath are digging them out. What about the Galactic Council? Hannah asked. Surely they will help? June let out a bitter laugh. The Council has sent strongly worded letters. They have expressed deep concern. They have offered thoughts and prayers. But no ships, Tae said. No ships. No soldiers. Nothing. June turned off the map. The Council species are peaceful. They have forgotten what war is. They think if they ignore the Krath will ignore them. They are fools, Tae said quietly. Yes, they are. The door opened again, and a figure walked in that made everyone stand up straight. It was Ambassador Rin of the Velith. He was taller than any human in the room, but he looked small somehow, broken. His pale skin had turned gray with exhaustion, and his large eyes were wet with tears. He was too tired to cry. Thank you for seeing me, Rin said. His voice was soft, like wind through leaves. I know humans are new to the Council. I know we have no right to ask anything of you, but I have nowhere else to go. Hannah stepped forward and took his hand. It was cold. Tell us, she said gently. Tell us everything. Rin began to speak. He told them about the day the Krath ships appeared in the sky. He told them about the first bombs that fell on the capital city, killing millions in seconds. He told them about the soldiers who marched through the streets, shooting anyone who ran and capturing anyone who surrendered. He told them about the children. The Krath did not see children as innocents. They saw them as resources. Young Velith were taken to camps where they were sorted and processed. Some were sent to work in mines. Some were sent to breeding facilities. Some simply disappeared, and no one knew where they went. We are not warriors, Rin said. We have never been warriors. We do not know how to fight. We only know how to create, how to love, how to dream. And now our dreams are dying." He looked at June with those large, dark eyes. "We have studied your species, Admiral. We know your history. We know about your wars, your battles, your endless conflicts. Other species fear you for this. They think you are dangerous, unpredictable, violent." He paused. "But we see something different. We see a species that protects what it loves. We see a species that fights for those who cannot fight for themselves. We see a species that never, ever gives up." Rin lowered himself to his knees. In Velith culture, this was the deepest form of respect. It was something they only did before their gods. "Please," he whispered, "help us. We have no one else." The room was silent. June looked at Hana. She nodded slowly, her eyes hard with determination. He looked at Tay. The young captain's hands were clenched into fists at his sides. Then June walked forward and helped Rin stand. "How long does your planet have?" he asked. 30 days. Maybe less." June nodded. He turned to face the window that looked out over Earth. Below him, billions of humans lived their lives, unaware that a species was being wiped out across the galaxy, unaware that a choice was being made in this room that would change everything. "Captain Tay," June said without turning around, "contact Fleet Command. Tell them to wake up the reserve ships. All of them." Tay's eyes went wide. "Sir, that will take authorization from the United Earth Council." "Then get it? Tell them the situation. Tell them a peaceful species asked for our help, and no one else would answer. And if they say no?" June finally turned around. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something that made even Tay take a step back. "They will not say no, because I will remind them of something we have forgotten. Humans do not look away when the innocent suffer. We do not hide while others burn. We answer. We always answer." He looked at Rin. "Tell your people to hold on for 30 days. Tell them help is coming. Tell them the humans are coming." Rin stared at him. For the first time in weeks, something like hope flickered in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." June shook his head. "Do not thank us yet. Because when we come, we will not just save your world. We will make the Krath pay for every life they took, every child they stole, every dream they destroyed." He turned back to the window. "They asked for war. They are about to learn what that means when humans answer." The news spread across Earth in hours. Every screen, every radio, every device carried the same message. The United Earth Council had made a decision. For the first time in 200 years, humanity was going to war. Not a small conflict, not a border skirmish. Total war. In cities across the planet, people stopped what they were doing and watched the announcement. Some were afraid. Some were excited. But most felt something deeper. A sense of purpose they had almost forgotten. Humans had spent centuries fighting each other. They had nearly destroyed themselves many times. When they finally reached the stars and met other species, they had tried to become peaceful. They had hidden their weapons. They had pretended to forget how to fight. They had smiled and nodded at council meetings, while other species called them primitive and dangerous. But they had never truly forgotten. Deep down, in their bones and blood, humans remembered what they were. Now, the galaxy was about to remember too. General Biko stood in the command center beneath the mountains of Korea. He was 63 years old, with gray hair and scars on his face from battles fought long ago. He retired 5 years ago, thinking his fighting days were over. He was wrong. "Status report," he ordered. The room was full of officers, all of them moving with urgent speed. Screens showed maps, numbers, and troop movements. It looked chaotic, but Ho knew better. This was controlled chaos. This was humanity preparing for war. Ground forces are mobilizing across all colonies, a young officer reported. We have 2 million soldiers ready to deploy within the week. Another 5 million in reserve. Supplies? Weapons, ammunition, medical equipment, and food for a 6-month campaign. Transport ships are loading now. Ho nodded. He turned to another officer. What about the secret reserves? The officer hesitated. Sir, those forces have been hidden for over a century. If we reveal them, the Council will know we lied about our military strength. The Council can complain after we save the Velith. Open the vaults. All of them. Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive. On the dark side of the moon, massive doors opened in the rock. Ships that had been sleeping for generations powered up, their engines glowing blue in the darkness. These were not diplomatic vessels. These were warships, built for one purpose only. In the asteroid belt. Hollowed-out rocks split apart to reveal shipyards that had been working in secret for decades. New weapons, new armor, new technology that humanity had developed but never shown to anyone. On Mars, underground bunkers released thousands of combat vehicles and tens of thousands of soldiers who had trained their whole lives for a war they thought might never come. The Galactic Council watched in growing horror. This is impossible, said the ambassador from the Talari, a species of small, peaceful beings who had always looked down on humans. They told us they had reduced their military. They told us they were becoming civilized. They lied, said another ambassador, his voice shaking. They all lied. Admiral Park Jun appeared on a screen before the council. His face was calm, but his uniform was different now. It was black, with silver stars on the shoulders. A war uniform. The human species formally announces our intention to engage the Krath Empire, Jun said. We will rescue the Velith people and destroy the Krath military capability. We do not ask for your help. We do not need your permission. We are simply informing you as a courtesy. This is madness. The Talari ambassador shouted. The Krath are the most powerful military force in the galaxy. You will be destroyed. Jun smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The Krath have never fought humans. They do not know what we are. They will learn. He ended the transmission. In a research facility on Earth. Engineer Choi Mina was making final adjustments to her greatest creation. She was a small woman with messy hair and oil stains on her lab coat. She had spent 20 years working on this project, and most people thought she was wasting her time. Project Hammer. It was a weapons platform unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Massive rods of dense metal, each one the size of a building, designed to be dropped from orbit onto enemy targets. No explosives needed, just gravity and mass, accelerated to incredible speeds. When a hammer rod hit a planet, it released energy equal to a nuclear bomb. But there was no radiation, no fallout, just pure, clean destruction. Is it ready? Asked Lieutenant Yoon Sora, stepping into the lab. She was an intelligence officer, responsible for gathering information on the enemy. She had been studying the Krath for weeks, learning their weaknesses. Mina grinned. 3 platforms, fully loaded. Each one carries 50 rods. That is 150 precision strikes, ready to go. The Council will call us monsters. The Council can call us whatever they want. The Velith will call us saviors. Sora nodded and handed Mina a data chip. Here is everything I have on Krath military installations. Shipyards, command centers, supply depots. Hit these, and their war machine falls apart. Mina took the chip and plugged it into her computer. A map appeared, covered in red dots. She began selecting targets, her fingers moving fast across the keyboard. This is going to change everything, Sora said quietly. After this, The galaxy will never look at humans the same way. Good, Mina said. I am tired of being called primitive. In orbit above Earth, the fleet was gathering. Captain Li Tae stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Endless Fury. It was a beautiful ship, sleek and deadly, built for speed and power. Around it, hundreds of other ships were taking position. Destroyers, carriers, cruisers, and battleships. The largest human fleet ever assembled. Tae looked at his crew. They were young and old, men and women, from every nation on Earth. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. Listen carefully, Tae said, his voice carrying across the bridge. In a few days we will face an enemy that has never been defeated. An empire that has crushed a dozen species. They think we are weak. They think we are easy prey. He paused. They are wrong. We are human. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that killed millions. We crawled out of caves and reached the stars through sheer stubbornness. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not die quietly. He pointed out the window at the fleet. Out there, a peaceful species is being slaughtered because no one would help them. Today, that changes. Today, humanity answers. And we will answer with everything we have. The crew cheered. Tae turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the fleet. A moment later, his voice was heard on every ship. All vessels, this is Captain Li Tae. Set course for the Velos system. We jump in 6 hours. He took a deep breath. Let us show the galaxy what happens when you make humans angry. The fleet began to move, engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Thousands of ships, carrying millions of soldiers, armed with weapons that other species could not imagine. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was hungry for war. The craft had never known fear. For 3,000 years, they had conquered the galaxy. Species after species had fallen before them. Some fought back, but never for long. The craft were bigger, stronger, and more brutal than anyone they faced. Their soldiers stood 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and natural bone armor covering their bodies. They felt no pity. They showed no mercy. They existed only to conquer. Commander Wrath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human fleet approach. He had heard rumors about these strange soft creatures from a small blue planet. He had been told they were dangerous, that they had hidden their true strength for centuries. He did not believe it. How many ships? Wrath asked. 300, Commander. Small vessels mostly. Nothing compared to our fleet. Wrath laughed. His fleet had 900 ships, and each one was larger than anything the humans had. This would not be a battle. It would be a slaughter. Open a channel, he ordered. Let me speak to these fools before we destroy them. A moment later, the face of Captain Li Tae appeared on screen. He looked calm, almost bored. Human Commander, Wrath said, showing his sharp teeth in what he thought was a terrifying smile. You have made a mistake coming here. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make you suffer for years before you die. Tae looked at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. I have a counteroffer. Turn around. Leave Velospace. Never return. Do this, and we will let you live. The craft bridge erupted in laughter. Wrath slammed his fist on his command chair. You dare threaten us? We have crushed empires. We have destroyed civilizations. What are you but insects? We are human, Tae said simply. And you are about to find out what that means. He cut the transmission. Wrath roared with rage. All ships. Destroy them. Leave nothing alive. The craft fleet surged forward, confident in their victory. They were wrong. The battle began with missiles. Thousands of them, launched from human ships in a single wave. The Krath had faced missiles before. Their shields could stop them easily. But these were not normal missiles. Lieutenant Yunsora had studied the Krath for months. She had found their weakness. Their shields were strong against energy weapons, but they had gaps. Small gaps, barely noticeable. Human missiles were programmed to find those gaps. The first wave of missiles punched through Krath shields like paper. Explosions ripped through their formation. 20 ships died in the first 30 seconds. Wrath stared at his screens in shock. Impossible! Commander, they are not stopping. More missiles incoming. The second wave hit even harder. Human ships were moving in patterns the Krath had never seen, weaving between enemy fire with impossible speed. They were smaller, yes, but they were faster. Much faster. Captain Li Te watched the battle from his bridge, giving orders in a calm voice. Squadron 3, target their fuel ships. Squadron 7, hit their carriers. Do not let them launch fighters. Human ships dove into the Krath formation like wolves attacking a herd. They struck hard and fast, then pulled back before the Krath could respond. It was not a fair fight. The humans were not trying to fight fair. This is not how war works. Wrath shouted. They should be forming lines. They should be facing us directly. His second officer looked at him with fear in his eyes. Commander, they are not following any tactics we know. They are fighting like what? Like they have been doing this forever. On the human flagship, Te received reports from across the battlefield. They were taking losses. 30 ships gone, 50, 100. But the Krath were losing more. Much more. Sir, his weapons officer reported. We have destroyed 200 enemy vessels. Their formation is breaking. Good. Launch the second phase. From the back of the human fleet, a new group of ships emerged. They were different from the others. Older. Uglier. These were the secret reserve ships, the ones humanity had hidden for over a century. They had been built for one purpose: to end battles quickly. Each ship carried a single weapon, a massive cannon that fired concentrated plasma at speeds close to light itself. The Krath had never seen anything like it. The first shot hit a Krath battleship directly in the center. It did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, turned into atoms in a flash of light. Wrath watched in horror as ship after ship vanished. His fleet, his undefeatable fleet, was dying around him. Retreat! He screamed. All ships retreat. But it was too late. Human ships surrounded the Krath fleet, cutting off escape routes. Captain Te appeared on screen again. I gave you a chance to leave, he said. You did not take it. Please, Roth said, his pride gone, replaced by terror. We surrender. We surrender. No, Te said. You do not get to surrender. Not after what you did to the Velith. Not after the children you took. Not after the cities you burned. He looked at Wrath with cold eyes. You wanted to know what humans are. Now, you know. We are the species that remembers. We remember every wrong done to those we protect. And we make sure it never happens again. He turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. All of them. The battle ended an hour later. Of the 900 Krath ships that had entered the fight, only 12 escaped. They fled into deep space, carrying stories of what they had seen. Stories of small ships that moved like ghosts. Stories of weapons that erased matter itself. Stories of a species that fought without fear, without hesitation, without mercy. Captain Te looked at his losses. 112 ships. Over 10,000 human lives. It was a heavy price, but they had won. On the Velith homeworld, refugees huddled in underground shelters. They had heard the sounds of battle in the sky. They had felt the ground shake. They did not know what was happening, Then a message came through on every screen, every radio, every device. This is Captain Lee Tae of the human fleet. The Krath invasion force has been destroyed. Relief ships are on the way. You are safe. There was silence for a moment. Then the crying started. Not crying of sadness, but of joy, of relief, of hope. In one shelter, a young Velith child looked up at her mother. The humans came, she whispered. They really came. Her mother held her tight, tears streaming down her face. Yes, little one. They came. Above the planet, Captain Tae allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. The first battle was won, but the war was just beginning. He opened a channel to Admiral Park Jun. Phase 1 complete, he reported. The Velith system is secure. Jun's voice came back, calm and steady. Good work, Captain. Now we move to Phase 2. We take the war to them. Tae nodded, even though Jun could not see him. Understood, Admiral. Where do we hit first? Everywhere, Jun said. We hit them everywhere, all at once. We do not give them time to recover. We do not give them time to think. We make them feel what the Velith felt. Tae smiled grimly. With pleasure, sir. The human fleet regrouped and set course for Krath space. The real war was about to begin. The Krath homeworld was burning. Not the planet itself, not yet. But its empire was on fire. Human fleets struck everywhere at once. Supply depots exploded. Shipyards crumbled. Military bases went silent. In 3 weeks, humanity had done more damage to the Krath than any species had done in 3,000 years. Admiral Park Jun watched the reports come in from his command ship. His strategy was simple but brutal. Do not give the enemy time to think. Do not let them organize. Do not let them breathe. Hit them and hit them and hit them until they have nothing left. Status on the ground campaign? He asked. General Biko appeared on screen. His face was tired but satisfied. We have taken 4 Krath colony worlds. 3 more are under siege. Ground forces are performing beyond expectations. Casualties. Heavy, but acceptable. The Krath are strong fighters, but they are not used to losing. When they lose, they panic. And when they panic, they make mistakes. Jun nodded. Continue the pressure. I want their supply lines completely cut within 2 weeks. On the surface of a Krath colony world called Vrek, Sergeant Kang Wu was leading his squad through the ruins of a city. The buildings around them were massive, built for creatures much larger than humans. It made Wu feel small, but feeling small had never stopped him before. Stay alert, he whispered to his squad. Krath snipers like to hide in tall structures. His squad was a mix of veterans and fresh soldiers. They moved carefully through the rubble, their weapons ready. They had been fighting for 12 days straight, sleeping in shifts, eating when they could. They were exhausted, but they kept moving. A sound came from a building to their left. Wu raised his fist and the squad froze. He pointed to 2 soldiers and gestured for them to check it out. They moved silently, disappearing into the shadows. A minute later, one of them appeared at a window and gave a hand signal. All clear. Not Krath. Something else. Wu led the rest of the squad inside. What they found made his heart clench. It was a group of Velith prisoners. About 30 of them, including children. They were thin, starving, their pale skin covered in bruises and cuts. They looked up at the human soldiers with terror in their eyes, expecting more pain. Easy, Wu said softly, holding up his hands. We are not here to hurt you. We are here to help. One of the Velith, an older female, stepped forward. Her voice was weak. You are human? Yes. She began to cry. We heard stories. We did not believe them. We thought we were going to die here. Wu knelt down so he was at eye level with a young Velith child hiding behind the woman. You are not going to die. Not today. Not ever, if we can help it. He turned to his medic. Onari, see what you can do for them. Medic Onari was already moving. She was a small woman with gentle hands and a fierce determination. She had joined the military to save lives, not take them. But in this war, she had learned to do both. She examined the prisoners quickly, treating the worst injuries first. The Velith watched her with wonder. They've never seen a species fight so hard, and then turn around and show such kindness. How can you do this? The older Velith asked Wu. How can you be so violent in battle and so gentle now? Wu thought about it for a moment. Because that is what makes us human. We fight hard for what matters. And right now, you matter. Your people matter. We did not come across the galaxy to watch you suffer. He stood up and looked at his squad. We need to get these people to the evacuation point. Form up. I want full coverage. No surprises. They moved out. The Velith prisoners walking in the center of the formation, protected on all sides by human soldiers who had not slept in days, but would not rest until these people were safe. Elsewhere on the planet, the main battle was reaching its peak, that the Krath had gathered their remaining forces for a final stand. They had chosen a valley surrounded by mountains, a natural fortress that would be nearly impossible to assault. 50,000 Krath warriors, armed and ready to die. General Biko looked at the tactical display and smiled. They think the mountains will protect them. He turned to his communications officer. Contact engineer Choi Mina. Tell her to prepare Project Hammer. 2 rods, targeting the mountains on either side of the valley. The officer hesitated. Sir, the explosion will be visible from space. Good. I want everyone to see it. I want the Krath on their homeworld to see what is coming for them. In orbit, Engineer Mina received the order. She had been waiting for this moment. Hammer 1 and 2, ready to drop, she announced. Targeting confirmed. Dropping in 3, 2, 1. 2 massive metal rods fell from the platform. They were simple things, just solid metal, but moving at incredible speed. They entered the atmosphere and began to glow, turning into streaks of fire against the sky. On the ground, the Krath warriors saw the fire coming. They did not understand what it was. Some thought it was meteors. Others thought it was a sign from their gods. Then the rods hit the mountains. The explosion was beyond anything the Krath had ever seen. 2 mountains simply ceased to exist, replaced by clouds of dust and fire that spread across the valley. The shockwave knocked down soldiers miles away. The sound was heard across the entire continent. When the dust settled, the Krath fortress was gone. 50,000 warriors wiped out in seconds. General Ho watched the aftermath from a drone feed, sending ground forces to secure the area, and broadcast this footage to every Krath world. Let them know what happens when they resist. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was in chaos. They had sent observers to watch the human campaign. What those observers reported back had shocked them to their core. They are not fighting a war, one observer said, his voice shaking. They are conducting an extermination. They destroy everything in their path. They show no hesitation. No doubt. Another observer, a scholar from a peaceful species called the Nellen, spoke more calmly. I have studied war for many years. I thought I understood it. I was wrong. Human war is different. It is total. They do not fight to win. They fight to make sure their enemy can never fight again. The council watched footage of human soldiers carrying wounded Velith prisoners to safety. They watched footage of human medics treating alien children. They watched footage of cities burning and mountains falling. They are monsters, one ambassador whispered. No, the Nellen scholar said. They are guardians. Terrible, terrifying guardians. The Velith asked for help, and the humans answered. This is what happens when you threaten something humans have chosen to protect. He paused, looking at the other ambassadors. We should be grateful they chose to protect the Velith. Because if they ever chose to turn that fury on us, we would not last a week. The council fell silent. On the Krath homeworld, the Emperor was receiving reports of disaster after disaster. His fleets were destroyed. His colonies were falling. His armies were being crushed by creatures half the size of Krath warriors. How is this possible? He demanded. We are the greatest military power in the galaxy. We were, his advisor said quietly. We are not anymore. The Emperor stared at the map showing human forces closing in from all directions. What do? We pray, the advisor said. We pray they accept our surrender. Because if they do not, there will be no Krath Empire left. The Emperor looked out the window at his capital city. He had ruled for 40 years. He had conquered 12 species. He had never known defeat. Now defeat was coming for him, wearing human faces and carrying human weapons, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The final battle lasted 11 days. Admiral Park Jun had brought every ship, every soldier, every weapon humanity could spare. The Krath had gathered everything they had left to defend their homeworld. It was the largest battle the galaxy had ever seen, and it was beautiful in its hard dot space above. The Krath homeworld was filled with fire. Ships exploded like stars being born and dying. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Beams of light cut through metal and flesh. The screams of the dying echoed across radio channels in a dozen languages. Captain Li Tae led the assault fleet. His ship, the Endless Fury, had been hit 17 times in the past week. Half his crew was dead or wounded. He had not slept in 4 days. He did not care. He had a job to finish. All ships, this is Captain Tae. The enemy is breaking. Push through their lines. Clear a path for the landing forces. The human fleet surged forward. They had learned the Krath tactics now. They knew how to hurt them. They knew how to make them afraid. And fear was a weapon humans understood very well. On the ground, General Beek Ho led the invasion personally. He was too old for this, his officers told him. He should command from orbit. He should stay safe. He had laughed at them. I did not become a general by staying safe. I became a general by fighting beside my soldiers. And I will not stop now. The streets of the Krath capital were a nightmare. Every building was a fortress. Every corner held an ambush. The Krath were fighting for their survival now, and they fought like cornered animals. Sergeant Kang Wu was there, as he had been for every major battle. His squad had changed many times. Soldiers died and new ones joined. But Wu kept going. He had made a promise to those Velith prisoners he had rescued. He had promised them the war would end. He intended to keep that promise. Move up, he shouted. Second squad, cover that window. Third squad, with me. They pushed forward, meter by meter, street by street. Medica Onari followed close behind, treating wounds as fast as they happened. She had run out of proper medical supplies days ago. Now she used whatever she could find, improvising tools and bandages from scraps. Sergeant, one of his soldiers called out. Krath patrol, coming from the east. Wu turned and saw them. 20 Krath warriors, armed with heavy weapons, charging toward their position. They were huge, terrifying, their bone armor making them look like demons. Hold the line, Wu ordered. Nobody runs. Nobody falls back. The battle was brutal. Humans were smaller and weaker than Krath, but they had something the Krath did not. They had each other. They fought as one unit, covering for each other, protecting each other, refusing to give up even when everything seemed lost. When it was over, 12 Krath lay dead. 3 humans had fallen. Wu stood over the bodies of his soldiers, breathing hard. He did not have time to mourn. There was still fighting to do. Collect their tags, he said quietly. We are taking them home. Above the planet, the space battle reached its end. The Krath fleet, once the terror of the galaxy, was destroyed. The few surviving ships fled into deep space, never to return. Admiral Park Jun watched the Krath homeworld on his screen. It was a gray, ugly planet, covered in factories and military bases. The home of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 3,000 years. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the Krath Emperor. He wishes to surrender. Jun was silent for a long moment. Put him through. The face of the Krath Emperor appeared on screen. He was old, his gray skin wrinkled and scarred from ancient battles. His eyes, once proud and cruel, were now filled with defeat. Human Admiral, the Emperor said, I offer the unconditional surrender of the Krath Empire. We accept whatever terms you demand. We ask only that you spare our civilians. Jun looked at him. The Velith asked you to spare their civilians. You refused. The Emperor lowered his head. I know. We were wrong. We have always been wrong. Please, show us the mercy we never showed others. Jun thought about the Velith children who had been taken. He thought about the cities that had burned. He thought about the species that had been wiped. Out over 3,000 years of Krath conquest, he thought about what it would mean to show mercy to those who had shown none. Your military will be completely destroyed, Jun said. Your weapons will be taken. Your warships will be dismantled. You will never threaten anyone again. Agreed. Your leaders will face trial for their crimes. Many of them will be executed. The Emperor closed his eyes. Agreed. And you will help rebuild what you destroyed. You will work to restore the species you conquered. For generations, if necessary. Agreed. Jun nodded slowly. Then the war is over. Surrender your forces immediately. The Emperor bowed his head. It will be done. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you for your mercy. Jun ended the transmission. He did not feel merciful. He felt tired. So very tired. On the surface, the fighting stopped. Krath soldiers laid down their weapons. Human soldiers stood among the ruins, barely believing it was over. Sergeant Kang-woo sat down on a piece of rubble and stared at the sky. His hands were shaking. He could not make them stop. Medic Onari sat beside him. We did it, she said softly. We actually did it. Yeah, Wu said. We did. They sat in silence for a long time, surrounded by the sounds of a war ending. The memorial was built on Earth, in a field that had once been a battlefield in an ancient human war. It seemed fitting. The names of the fallen were carved into walls of black stone. Over 2 million names. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, medics. Humans who had given everything to save a species they had never met. Admiral Park Jun stood before the memorial, his uniform heavy with medals he did not want. Captain Lee Tae stood beside him, his arm still in a sling from the final battle. Was it worth it? Tae asked. It was the same question he had asked before. He still needed an answer. Jun watched as a group of Velith visitors approached the memorial. They were the first of many who would come to pay their respects. Among them were children, including the young girl who had been rescued by Sergeant Wu's squad. She walked to the wall and placed a flower against it. Then she turned and saw the 2 officers watching her. She walked over to them, her large dark eyes serious. Thank you, she said simply. Thank you for saving us. Jun knelt down to look at her. What is your name? Lyra. Lyra. That is a beautiful name. He looked at the memorial, then back at her. We lost many friends in this war. Many people who will never come home. I know, Lyra said. My mother told me. She said humans gave their lives for people they did not even know. She said that makes you special. We are not special, June said. We just could not look away. When you asked for help, we had to answer. Why? June thought about it. Because that is who we are. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if it costs us everything. Lyra hugged him. It was sudden, unexpected, and it nearly broke him. He hugged her back. This small alien child who represented everything they had fought for. When she pulled away, there were tears in her eyes. And in his. I will never forget, she said. My people will never forget. For as long as we exist, we will remember what humans did for us. She walked back to her family, and they left the memorial together. Tay looked at June. You did not answer my question. June stood up, watching the Velith family walk away. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Yes, he said finally. It was worth it. It was worth everything. They stood in silence as the sun went down. The Galactic Council held a session to officially end the war. Representatives from every species attended. Humans sat among them, quiet and tired. One ambassador stood and spoke for all of them. We owe humanity a debt we can never repay. When we turned away, they answered. When we offered words, they offered blood. They have shown us what true courage looks like. He looked at Dr. Kim Hana, who represented humanity at the council. We called you primitive. We called you dangerous. We were fools. You are the best of us. The protectors we did not deserve, but desperately needed. Hannah stood to respond. She thought about all the lives lost, all the sacrifice, all the pain. We did not fight for gratitude, she said. We did not fight for glory. We fought because someone asked for help and no one else would answer. That is all. She paused. But let this be a lesson to everyone here, to every species in this galaxy. If you threaten the innocent, if you prey on the weak, if you think you can conquer without consequence, remember what happened to the Krath. Her voice hardened. Remember that somewhere in this galaxy, there is a species that does not forgive, does not forget, and does not stop until the job is done. She sat down. The council was silent, and across the galaxy, in every corner of every world, the story spread. The story of a young species from a small blue planet. A species that had been called primitive and violent. A species that had answered a cry for help with absolute war, and had won.